Where the Monster Hunter series is primarily taking the story later action now approach to its mainline games, Monster Hunter Stories flipped that when it came to the 3DS back in 2016. That formula hasn't changed with its sequel, Monster Hunter Stories 2 for the PC and Nintendo Switch. This spin-off title adopts a turn-based battle system over the traditional action combat for a story-driven Monster Hunter, more about collecting monsters rather than hunting them down. But before we jump into this review, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on my reviews. Only 10% of you watching are subscribed, so let's get those numbers up. You can also join my Discord server for free with the link in the description. For anyone that clicked on this review hoping this could be the game that gets them to the series, worry not, as you don't need to play the prior games to jump in. You play as a young monster rider who, unlike in the main games, doesn't just hunt monsters, they form bonds with them. You're the grandson of the legendary monster rider Red, who, alongside their newfound friends, must make sure that the new Rathalos egg doesn't hatch to become a monster that destroys their world as they know it. In regards to its writing, it's nothing too riveting as it follows a rather traditional, quote-unquote chosen one approach to its story that doesn't develop past the usual formula tropes. Nevertheless, as a baseline for its monster collecting gameplay, it does a good enough job as a foundation for a story to follow. Despite the series' name, this entry isn't so much about hunting monsters but rather collecting them. You play as a monster rider, a group of people that focuses more on creating bonds with monsters rather than hunting them. You fight alongside these creatures in a turn-based battle system over the traditional real-time action found in the mainline series. I can see a lot of people preferring this and finding it more approachable. So yes, Monster Hunter is very much like Pokemon in this case, but with some added layers of depth. Unlike Pokemon, you don't just summon these monsters and tell them what to do, you actually fight alongside them, and the process of obtaining them is vastly different. The primary gameplay loop has you exploring monster dens, fighting monsters for resources, until you come across a monster's nest. It's in these nests that you find an egg that you can later hatch to get a new monster to join your team. The dens come in two varieties, regular dens and rare monster dens. As you'd expect, the rare monster dens tend to offer better eggs, but ultimately their designs are similar. There are these sandbox areas containing enemy monsters, a nest, and a handful of collectible treasure chests. While these dens can be expansive, they at times feel empty. This is a result of the treasure chest looting usually returning less than lukewarm resources, losing most of the incentive of exploring these in the first place because they come off more like empty mazes with the only redeeming feature being the monster egg you can find. There are more expansive versions of dens called Everden. They're much better, featuring expansive sandboxes with more worthwhile items to collect. In a way, I wish monster dens were just Everdens because in comparison they feel more like watered down dungeons. However, the larger sized Everdens also feature way more dead ends that occasionally make exploring them feel like a chore. Once you get all your monster eggs, you can take them back to the local stable to hatch. This is where the game becomes a bit more strategy driven. Monster stats vary on the size of your egg, the rarity level, and the different genes it comes with. Those genes directly affect the types of attacks and skills your monster will know. You can further develop these genes to improve their abilities or even transfer genes between monsters to curate your monster to fit the specific battle situation. It reminds me a lot of higher level Pokemon strategies for breeding and raising Pokemon. These monsters then join your battles against other monsters, but unlike the mainline series, this is done via turn-based battles. These battles continue to use type weaknesses that feel like a rock paper scissors game consisting of a power, speed, and technical attack. Each attack overlaps another, and so each battle becomes a game of trying to figure out what type of attacks your enemy will make. This means knowing when to switch monsters, when to attack solo as a rider, or ride your monster for a combined skill attack. As new monsters get introduced, the meta keeps growing and evolving, and that's yet to mention the weapons. Weapons are just as important as the monsters as they have their own stats, their elemental variations, and types of skills. Like the main Monster Hunter games, you can attack specific parts of a monster, and depending on the skill you use, one might work better than another. Likewise, certain elements might be better against some monsters. That goes the same for your armor, as you can build an armor set made to last against fire, for example. As a result, both the combat and the monster racing feel like two strategy heavy elements of the game that truly feel like the main attraction here. Don't let the simple story and child-skewed visuals fool you, as underneath it is an advanced RPG system. Beyond battles and dens, you'll traverse the open sandbox areas traveling from biome to biome. You'll run into monsters you can fight, items to collect, and interactable obstacles. These obstacles are solved by using specific monster abilities to traverse the obstacles, like a rock wall or a body of water. It reminds me a lot of HMs in the Pokemon series. These aren't really all that challenging, nor do they really feel like puzzles. If anything, it felt more like needless padding to slow down the pacing of exploration that is already not too incentivizing to begin with. The gameplay loop of exploring the monster dens can get repetitive the longer you play, and you can easily spend 50 hours just playing through the main campaign. However, the advanced monster raising system alongside the tactical battle system keeps everything feeling fresh and versatile, and somehow much more approachable than the mainline games. Monster Hunter Stories 2 has a more cartoon look to it than its mainline games. It no doubt caters to a more childlike audience when it comes to visuals, but don't mistake this for a children's game. The visuals admittedly look quite nice for this more cartoon style over the more realistic approach. I actually enjoyed the simplified look, especially playing on my Nintendo Switch. Speaking of which, this game is available on both Nintendo Switch and PC, however it's apparent that the Switch version was the original version. Playing in dock mode, the game runs at a dynamic 900p resolution, while running at 720p dynamic in handheld mode. Curiously enough, there isn't a target frame rate, instead there's an unlocked frame rate that hovers anywhere between 25 to 40 frames per second, depending on the point of the game you're in. Usually the game was able to hover around the 30 frames per second mark, with the occasional dip during the more cinematic moments. Speaking of which, there's some great animation work throughout a lot of the battle cutscenes that, let's just say, make the Pokemon series look, well, bad. Anyway, when Capcom was scaling this up to PC, not a lot of extra graphic work was done. The PC version gets some higher resolution options and a slightly better draw distance than that on the Switch. Even on the lower graphical scale with the Switch, in handheld mode, the resolution scale is quite nice on the smaller pixel dense display. Monster Hunter Stories 2 has a nice collection of music featuring both new and recompositions of classic Monster Hunter tunes that felt perfectly at home here. As for the voice acting, I thought they were just fine, but it wasn't until I got later in the game that some new characters got introduced and truly elevated the bar for voice acting in this game. Regardless, the remaining cast I thought was still fine, but the later cast was quite remarkable. Monster Hunter Stories 2 ironically doesn't have the most amazing story, and it suffers from a simple overworld complete with dungeons that don't feel like they take advantage of the size all that well. However, it adapts the traditional Monster Hunter formula into a turn-based battle system that feels fresh and inviting. For those that just want to collect and complete the Monster Encyclopedia, and likewise those more interested in playing the competitive scene, will no doubt enjoy the well-developed metagame. If you wanted to get into Monster Hunter before but didn't think it was your cup of tea, I think you should take a look at this one, especially if you're a fan of the Pokemon series. Thank you very much for watching my review. If you found it informative and entertaining, then let me know with a like and a comment down below. As you know, that always helps other people find the video, and I greatly appreciate it. Are you going to try this version of Monster Hunter, or do you prefer the mainline games? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, until the next video, I'll talk to you in the comments down below or over on the free Discord server in the description.